Okay, so yeah. So some housekeeping matters. This webinar will be recorded, and the recording and slides will be available at our library website after the event. Do type in any questions through the chat or use the microphone during the Q&A session. Okay, so today I'm pleased to introduce our first speaker for today's session, Professor Michael Khor, Director, Fellowships and Awards, Research Support Office, President's Office, NTU. Professor Khor holds a PhD from Monash University and began his career at CSIRO in Melbourne before joining NTU in 1989. He has since held multiple senior leadership roles at NTU and nationally, including Director of Research, Associate Provost Research, Director, Research Support Office, and leadership positions at the Singapore MIT Alliance and the National Research Foundation. Let's hand over the time to Prof. Khor to deliver the opening remarks. Okay, Prof. Khor, over to you, please. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Oime, and very good morning to everyone. First of all, hearty congratulations to NTU Library and Clarivate Analytics for putting this important webinar together. And it's good to see so many of you this morning, Singapore time, to attend this webinar. So my focus is very much on early career researchers because these researchers have at least 3 or more decades ahead of them to do impactful research. So I shall share with you some of the observations we made on the early career researchers who are also highly cited researchers. So, as you know, the highly cited researchers has captured the interest of the scientific research community worldwide, and many of us are following the Clarivate Analytics annual release of the HCR information or rankings. So, and like you, I look at this intently. And of course, I turn my attention to NTU. How is NTU doing? So I look at the trend of the early career researchers who are also highly cited researchers. So if you look at the red bar, these bars are the numbers of highly cited researchers in NTU. And over the period of 2019 to 2023, and you can see a rising trend. And equally, if not more so, is the rising trend of the early career researchers in NTU who are also highly cited researchers. So these are promising young researchers who have seemingly a very bright future ahead of them because at such an early age, they are already highly cited researchers. So the number has been rising, and this is also a reflection of what they do in NTU. And you will definitely hear from Pavel later on the tools to enable you to identify the important topics that will contribute to being a highly cited researchers. One of the important factor is the selection of your research topic. So the selection of research topic is absolute key to becoming a highly cited researcher. But of course, there are many other things that go into it, you know. So I also track top Asian universities. And if you look at this plot, we have a plot of the university global score in the university ranking, and then I plot it against the number of highly cited researchers in the university. So you can see that right on top of these Asian university is Tsinghua. And you can also see that NTU, NUS, and other top Asian universities are identified in the plot. And the blue dots are those in the top 10, and then followed by the orange dots in the top 20, and so on. And if you look at the plot, there seems to be a linear relationship between the global score, which determines the ranking of the universities, with the number of highly cited researchers. So, being a top university and having a high number of highly cited researchers goes hand in hand. So this is another important point. And if you like to have a breakdown of the plot, you can see it in the table here. You can see that among the top 10, in terms of the number of highly cited researchers, number one is Tsinghua. Number two is University of Hong Kong, or HKU, and then NTU is number three. So it shows that in NTU, we are doing research that strongly followed by many other peers around the world. And that's very important in research. You want to be doing research that is important, impactful, and it is reflected in the number of citations to your papers. So this is, to me, a very important indicator which all universities should pay attention to, and that's why I would put across to you that it's important to monitor the Clarivate Analytics HCR data or release. So let me just summarize by saying that in NTU, we see a very encouraging rising trend of highly cited researchers who are also early career researchers. And when we track these early career researchers after they leave NTU, many of them take up academic positions, mostly in Asia. Now, that is very important because this reflects a trickling effect across the universities in terms of the excellence obtained in a top university like NTU, trickling down to other younger universities or other universities who are aspiring to rise in the ranking. So this trickling effect is important, and this is again one of the observations we made. Many of them do not necessarily stay on in NTU because of the limited funding as well as limited positions. And we know the struggles. And so other opportunities exist in those universities that are, starting up or have other vacancies, and that presents an opportunity for them to further develop themselves as researchers. We also noticed that around 40% of these early career researchers who are HCR and left NTU around 40% still work with researchers in NTU. And that's very important for NTU to be able to maintain this kind of global research network. So having a vibrant, robust global research collaboration network is important for NTU's academic reputation. And I think it is important for NTU to continue to engage those who left us, to take up position elsewhere, to continue to be connected with us in one way or another. So indeed, this is an opportunity for NTU to build strong research network with these highly cited researchers who have many, many more years ahead of them because they are young and they have opportunities in other places. And it is important way for NTU to increase its global influence. And we need to work on our global influence because this is another important factor in the university ranking, and we need to be able to have a strong influence. And the HCR, based on this study, has shown that it is an important way to strengthen NTU's influence. So thank you very much once again, and I look forward to hearing more about the HCR from Pavel. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Prof. Khor. So let's take a look to see whether anyone has any questions. Yeah, for those who would like to ask Prof. Khor questions, you can either type in your questions in the chat or use the mic. So yeah. Okay. Looks like there are no questions yet. So we'll we'll continue. Oh, Suni gave a clap. Okay, so we'll continue to the latter part of our webinar for today. So just hold on for a moment. So let me share my screen. So thanks, Prof. Khor. So we'll continue with Pavel's talk. Just on. So everyone, we that today we have our main speaker, Mr. Pavel Kasyanov, Principal Customer Success Consultant, Academia and Government, from Clarivate. Okay. Pavel worked at Clarivate for more than 20 years and is an expert in bibliometric analysis. He had worked on implementing the modern bibliometric approaches in evaluating science in Russia. He had also worked directly with universities in Eastern Europe and Central Asia to help them increase their research performance, research visibility, and research impact globally. Pavel specializes in using Web of Science data for various custom analytical projects via APIs and he had worked with Asian research organizations to implement modern approaches to integrate bibliometric data and research evaluation methodologies into their workflows. Okay, so without further ado, let's hand over the time to Pavel. Pavel, over to you, please. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Aimee, and thank you very much, Prof. Khor. Truly insightful speech. And you should see my screen by now. So maybe
yes, we can see
if
your
you have
screen.
extra words about myself, yes, I am a customer success consultant, a dedicated customer success consultant working with NTU. I've been here in Singapore, based here in Singapore for 2 years already, and I like it a lot here. I also cover New Zealand, so I saw there were a couple of registrations from New Zealand for this webinar. So if you're listening, we can also do a session like that for you. Yeah, let's try to do what we were focused on today. So we prepared a presentation for you about highly cited researchers. Mostly what we wanted to talk about today is how we calculate, how we build this list every year. We wanted to talk about how this data is used by university rankings, by government organizations, and by universities themselves. And I'm going to share some of the quick facts about NTU, mostly because this session is hosted kindly by NTU. So a lot of examples what I'm going to be given is going to be based on NTU. Please feel free to ask your questions in the chat window. I will try to keep it open, but just in case I don't answer your question right away, there will definitely be a Q&A session in the end, so we will be able to discuss anything right after that. I normally prefer, let me start the presentation with probably one of the most exciting slides, just to drag a bit of more of your attention. I tried to build a graph that will show where exactly Singapore is standing in the world in terms of percentage of the highly cited papers. So now we're not talking about the highly cited researchers yet. We're talking about highly cited papers. I'll explain in a few seconds what exactly that means. But I think it's really important to share that from the top 30, I believe, countries that produce the most research in the world right now, Singapore's share of highly cited researchers, Singapore's rate of publishing highly cited researchers is probably the highest. So if you take a look at the screen, what we see on the horizontal axis is the percentage of the papers published by country that end up to be highly cited. And as you can see, with a huge gap, Singapore is outperforming any other country. So basically, it's safe to say that 1 in 50 documents published by Singapore, at least one is going to be highly cited. So more than 2% of your papers, they end up being highly cited, much higher than any of the other top research producers in the world. I think that really deserves some round of applause. Now, let's talk about what exactly is a highly cited document, because this is really essential to understand in terms of the methodology for defining a highly cited researcher. So a highly cited document is a document that was published in Web of Science, that was indexed in Web of Science in the last 10 years, and that has fallen into 1% top documents based on their number of citations in the same for all the documents published in the same field and in the same year. So as you can see, we add this adjustment for the same for the subject area, because you can't just compare the documents published, let's say, in economics with documents published in nuclear physics. In nuclear physics, normally the citation rates are significantly higher than in economics, but that doesn't mean that an arbitrary paper in nuclear physics is more important or more impactful than the paper in economics. In bibliometrics, you have to compare like with like, apples with apples, if I may. So yeah, we normalize the documents by their subject area, by the field of science, and obviously by the year, because I think you agree with me that a document published 9 years ago probably had more time to accumulate enough citations than a document that was published yesterday. So yeah, we normalize documents by their subject area and by the year. And that leaves us with approximately 1% of the documents published in the recent 10 years that are highly cited. It is important to say this is not really the scope of our today's conversation, but I made an appendix to my presentation. So if there's going to be any questions about how we define emerging topics, something that can help understand what's hot and what's trending in your rather wide subject area. So we also use the highly cited papers to define the emerging topics, or as we also call them now, research horizons. I see a question in the chat: how many fields there are in the essential science indicators, the specific classification schema that we use for specifically for highly cited documents, there are 22 subject areas. So 21 to be precise, and one subject area that is multidisciplinary. So thank you for asking the question. Let's go further. Let's take a bit more precise look into what's going on with the highly cited documents. So it looks very simple when we just taking a look at the definition, but if we start digging, specifically because this is important for calculating the documents and calculating the final list of the highly cited researchers, things might get a bit hairy. So please bear with me. Let's try to take a look into some more details. So there are actually only two types of the documents that can be considered for highly cited. It's the article type, so that means results of an original research published in a peer-reviewed scientific journal, or that can be a review paper, which normally is not a result of an original research, but rather is a summary of what's going on in a specific on a specific topic right now. So only those two document types can be highly cited. If you published a letter in a journal or an editorial, we also index these documents in the Web of Science core collection, but they never can become highly cited papers for mine. So there also is, some of you might know this, specifically the people who used to be working with Web of Science for more than 10 years. Some of you might find this quite complicated, and I'm truly appreciate it. We really don't want to overcomplicate the use of Web of Science for our users. So in the recent years, we've been trying to simplify the things a lot for you. But it is essential to understand, at least for the highly cited, in the scope of the highly cited documents, that Web of Science as a database is actually consisting of 7 smaller like sub-databases, which is called indices. And there are only 2 sub-databases of Web of Science core collection that are eligible for keeping the documents that can be highly cited. Those are Science Citation Index Expanded and Social Sciences Citation Index. The reason why we have these indexes in the Web of Science core collection is that maybe 50 years ago, when Dr. Eugene Garfield just created Web of Science, it consisted of several book series. Like it was published in paper, like who cited whom, where, and when. It was cited it was published in books, and that's why it is called like citation index. It started with Science Citation Index Expanded, and then Dr. Garfield, he realized that the same things can be done for social sciences, and that's how he created Social Sciences Citation Index. So we do have a separate one for arts and humanities, which is not included into the calculation for the highly cited documents. We also have 2 conference proceedings indices, and we also have book citation indices, 2 book citation indices. So just to keep things simple, only if you publish papers in peer-reviewed journals in science or social sciences, those are the only ones that can become highly cited. Is it absolutely excluded as a possibility that if you, for example, publish a conference proceeding paper or let's say a book chapter in humanities, that it can be highly cited at all? No, the answer is no, because sometimes documents in Web of Science can have dual types. So for example, a conference proceeding that has been then published in a peer-reviewed journal, that document is going to have dual type, like article, because it's a result of an original research and it's published in a peer-reviewed journal, and at the same time proceeding paper, because this document is related to a conference. So these documents still can get the stages of highly cited. Likewise, sometimes book chapters can also, because there's quite a thin, I would say, gray line between what you define as a journal and as a book series. Sometimes those documents can also be on the border between social sciences and humanities, and they can also be a document that can be included for consideration. But primarily, I would say where these laws of bibliometric they work the best. It's the hard science and the social sciences. This is where exactly we're searching for highly cited researchers. It's not that we don't respect humanities, or that we don't respect, let's say, conference proceedings as a source of dissemination data. It's just that as long as we want to be consistent, as long as we want to trust the data, as long as we want to, as a company, as long as we want to, if I may, eat what we're cooking for you. That's why we're only focusing on these two larger science fields, science and social science. But in terms of the sources from which we count citations to the papers, it's slightly easier. So we acknowledge citations from any document that is indexed in the Science Citation Index Expanded, or Social Sciences Citation Index, or Arts and Humanities. So if a humanities paper is citing a hard science paper or a social sciences paper, we're still going to consider that. But as long as those are published in the journals, not in the conferences, not in the books. So those are the firm, I would say, intended parts of our methodology. It might be, someone might be able to say, hey, that doesn't mean that it's very inclusive. But what we want to make sure is that we are delivering a data set of highly cited researchers and highly cited papers that is consistent, that is trusted, and that is transparent. If we include more additional document types or more additional like arts and humanities subject areas where laws of bibliometrics still work, but the data sets are not as large as in social sciences, and specifically in the hard science, that might really damage the whole transparency of the research. Just to make sure we're on the same page, the citation thresholds that are required for a paper to become highly cited, they can be viewed. They are available in a service which has exactly the same name, Essential Science Indicators, just like the subject areas which we're working with, and that is updated monthly. So let's take a look at that. As the Insights subscriber, NTU does have to this service called Essential Science Indicators. Now, Essential Science Indicators was actually one of the first attempts of our company. Back in the times, it was called Thomson Scientific, to create something that is an analytical tool based on Web of Science data. Now we do have the tool called Insights, Benchmarking, and Analytics, which is far more advanced. And we are even coming up with a new tool that is called Research Intelligence, that is even more advanced and all AI powered and AI inspired. So I appreciate that you might take a look at this interface and might say that it looks a bit archaic. Yes, that I would agree with you, but the important thing is that this is the source of the data where you can check what the thresholds are for different documents published in different subject areas and in different fields. So all you need to do is visit this link, or if you're more of a QR code type user, feel free to scan it with your mobile phone. It probably is going to require you to log in with your Web of Science login and password, and it should let you in. But essentially, if you go to the citation thresholds tab there and go to highly cited thresholds, this is where you're going to see the number of citations that are required for a specific document in a specific year, published in a specific year, to be highly cited. So you can see, for example, that in the subject area of engineering, published in 2018, your document should acquire at least 192 citations to be highly cited, which is not going to be enough at all for a document in material science. There, the citation rates are much higher. Okay, let's move on next. Another interesting observation that I wanted to share with you is that I wanted to show you how do the top Singaporean organizations compare in terms of highly cited papers. We're still talking highly cited papers, and we're going to switch to highly cited researchers in just a minute. So the 2015 data is not complete yet. That's why I'm not providing these data points to you. But what we see is that NTU is going number 2 in terms of the total number of highly cited papers in Singapore. But it has the highest share of, so again, the highest percentage of highly cited papers. So out of 100 papers that NTU publishes per year in the recent 10 years, 2.52% are ending up being highly cited. So it's far above the world average, and it's even above Singaporean average. So that, and that's as I see, above any other university in Singapore in terms of the proportion of the highly cited papers that you publish per one Web of Science index document. Okay. And from that, let's jump into the excuse me, into the methodology. Now, strap yourselves in. There's going to be a lot of details right now, and some of the slides might appear really busy, but we know that there are so many questions about how exactly you guys count that. We really want to know this down to smallest detail, and we're going to give you this methodology down to smallest detail right now. So the whole process consists of 3 phases, but multiple steps. So let's take a look at each of them. Once again, Sending, you were asking about how many fields there are. I'm not just giving the list of the fields. I'm giving the list of all the, I'm naming them all on this screen. And what we do in the first stage is we're just downloading the list of these highly cited papers from the Web of Science. We don't do that for the for the last year. When the project starts, the time window is actually 11 years rather than 10 years that were defined as a highly cited paper. So basically the data set is a bit stretched in time specifically for the purpose of the highly cited researchers calculations. And yeah, what we're doing is we're just downloading this data set, and what we're doing next is we are excluding certain papers from the analysis. I'll explain to you why we're doing this, and while I'm explaining this, there's a little game for you on the right-hand side. So you can see a document, a very important and very highly cited document called Evidence for the Higgs Boson Decay to a Z Boson and a Photon at the LHC at Large Hadron Collider, published a couple of years ago in Physical Review Letters. I'll encourage you to try to guess, what does the number 5,290 have in relation to this document while I'm explaining what's happening in the step 2. Feel free to share your thoughts in the chat window. I'll if anyone guesses correctly, I'll read your name and congratulate you. So what we're doing is we are excluding certain papers from the analysis. And why are we doing this? First of all, we exclude retracted papers. Retracted papers are still indexed in the Web of Science core collection. Retracted papers, they're not deleted from the scholarly communications at all. They are just kind of taken away from it with a sign saying, please use at your own risk. So obviously we don't use the retracted papers for the calculation of the highly cited researchers. We also exclude the papers with more than 30 this paper on the right-hand side definitely is not a retracted one. We also exclude the papers with more than 30 co-authors. Why exactly we're doing this? It doesn't mean this research is bad. It just means that when there is more than 30 researchers in a paper, it's really hard to understand who is the primary contributor to this research, and who was, as I heard from one of the university administrators in Ukraine, who was just bringing the tea to the real scientists. So that's why this is still a very important research papers. It's just that it's very hard for us to really quantify the involvement of specific researchers into this project, and therefore we start thinking maybe we should fractionalize the citations between each of them, so that we don't start answering these questions. We just decided to exclude, and yeah, we have a winner. Thank you, Sunny. You're absolutely right. It's 5,290 authors that co-authored this paper. So yeah, you're absolutely right. Thank you very much. Yeah, and you can imagine that how much that is. Probably if we expand this whole list of authors, it's going to be longer than the text of the research itself. Specifically, if we add their affiliations there. So and that is still a legitimate paper. It's a joint project between Atlas collaboration and CMS collaborations, two of the main experiments that were conducted at Large Hadron Collider. So it is still a very important piece of research in the world. It's still very influential, but just because we really can't tell the involvement of each of these 5,290 researchers in writing this paper, we decided to analyze them like in a separate list of documents. When there's group authors appearing on the paper, just like we see Atlas collaboration and CMS collaboration here, we also exclude these documents from the analysis. An important question that you might ask is, what if I just collaborated with a colleague of mine and there are two of us on the paper? Is this also going to be excluded? Obviously not. This you might think that this is this is informally a group, but we only recognize the groups that were mentioned by the publisher themselves. So if the publisher says that there was Atlas collaboration, global burden of disease, or something like CMS collaboration, which count more than hundreds of researchers, we were also included in that. In case you just co-author the paper with somebody else, 2, 3, 4, 5, up to 29 researchers, we don't treat this as a group. So it's a co-authorship, but it's not a group authorship of the paper. So a group is a formal name of the collaboration that is stated by the publisher on the document. I hope I made it clear. And finally, the researchers that have been noticed in significant research misconduct, we also exclude, in the previous years, we also exclude them from the analysis, papers authored by them, okay? That was step 2 of the phase 1. Then we have this step 3, and I'm sorry, we are entering 2 hardest slides of the whole presentation and the busiest slides. So after all the previous steps are done, we are taking each of the 21 subject areas, and we just ranking the researchers there by the number of the highly cited papers. And we identify the threshold number of highly cited papers that is required for a researcher to be a highly cited one. And funny enough, as I like the neatness of this, but I hope you also recognize this. So the number of highly cited researchers in each field is equal to the square root of the total number of author profiles of highly cited papers in that field. So let me give you an example. Let's assume we have 30,000 papers in a specific 30,000 highly cited papers in a specific subject area. On average, let's say it has 3 co-authors. That gives us a total of 90,000 author profiles, unique author profiles of the highly cited papers in a subject area. So we take a square root of that. And if I did my math correctly, it's going to be 300 authors that are going to be highly cited. So the author at the 300th position is going to demarcate the threshold number of highly cited paper for us. But there's few important details here, because we also taken a look at what's the total number of citations that these researchers have accumulated, and we also take a look at the field citation threshold. But we also introduced the field citation threshold for any authors who have 1 highly cited paper less. So let's take a look at this table. Probably it's going to explain this in a bit easier way. So we have researchers that are sorted by the number of highly cited papers, and the researcher who has 17 of them, when the field threshold is 11, she's definitely considered for inclusion into the list. But then we have the fictional researcher William Claver, who only has 10 papers, and the field threshold is 11. I'm not going to tell you which field that is. It doesn't really matter. But because the number of citations to their highly cited papers is 3,600 something, and the field citation to the authors who have 1 paper fewer is 2,900, this researcher is considered for inclusion. But the researcher who has 1 paper less and the citations are below the citation threshold, that one is not going to be considered. I know that this looks complicated, but that's how it works, and I really wanted to give you all the details of that. Are we done with the hard things? Unfortunately not. One last thing is that there still are researchers that are publishing research in different subject areas. So let's say you're working in material science, some of your papers might fall into chemistry, some documents of yours might fall into physics. So what we do there is we calculate the fraction of their highly cited papers versus the threshold. And we calculate the fraction of their citations versus the threshold. And then we just summarize those fractions. And if they end up being more than one, that's where we consider that person a highly cited researcher, but in a cross-field subject area. So let's take a look at this person who has one paper in field X, let's say this is physics, 7 highly cited papers in the field Y, and then 3 more highly cited papers in another field, and 4 more highly cited people in one file, no, field number 16. I don't know what it is, and again, it doesn't matter. So what we do is we take a look at citations to this highly cited paper, so 98, and the field citation threshold is 1857. So we divide 99 by 1857, and we get 0.045. That's their field paper score for this field number 3. And we, excuse me, that's 0.53. And we take their number of highly cited papers, which is 1, and divide by 2020, we divide by 22, and that's how we get the 0.045. And that's their paper score in this subject area. So we summarize them all, and because the person has 1.67 as their total field paper score, they qualify for that, and they qualify in terms of the field citation score. So thanks for being with me up to this point. I know this is very hairy, and this was my best attempt to explain all this. But once again, we wanted to give you all the details that are related to this. If you need any reminder of how exactly that is done, there will be links in the end of these slides that will explain what exactly is going on in the methodology. And that is where we're done with creating the long list of the researchers, and this is where we start filtering out people from there, just like we did with the papers, individual papers a few steps before. So any researchers in the list that are showing any signs of misconduct or anything else that might be suspicious, they're not selecting for the program. So authors it's all about research integrity. So if we see that a researcher is publishing so many papers that it's just impossible for a human being to publish several papers in a week, for example, and they do have this number, we suspect that maybe this person is just included into the papers by other people, and this person might not be even related to those papers. So we might just exclude them from the analysis. I can't tell you what exactly the threshold is, but obviously there's no arithmetic value for that. We also do some research, like is this person related to all the highly cited papers that they published? And yes, that's if this is confirmed that they probably are not, this is where we exclude them from the analysis. And anomalous levels of self-citations or group citations, we also take those out. In some subject areas, self-citations, like in mathematics, are more common than in others. So we also normalize that by ESI, Essential Science Indicators subject areas. And it is important to understand that as much as self-citation is acceptable in science, so sometimes you can, if your present research is based on your previous year's research, you absolutely should reference your own paper in that. But if we see that for a given researcher, the number of self-citations is over 80%, for example, that obviously that means to us that that person is probably trying to manipulate their citation counts. Same goes for the group citations. So in case the researcher might not be citing themselves, but if we see that whoever cites them are only coming from the same university or from the same, all published in the same conference or in the same journal, and no other entities are citing this researcher, that's when we see that probably this is not really a truly highly cited paper in terms of the world impact. And that's when we also should probably remove that from the analysis. If we have any community reports of potential breaches, but obviously, if we find an article on Retraction Watch that this researcher is probably found in scientific misconduct, that is a reputable source for us, but we still verify this independently by our Institute of Scientific Information. So I'm sorry, I'm providing an abbreviation here. ISI, it stands for Institute of Scientific Information. That was the place in Philadelphia from which Web of Science as a tool emerged by Dr. Eugene Garfield, who unfortunately passed away 10 years ago already. But ISI, Institute of Scientific Information, is still an integral part of Clarivate. It's our think tank that is basically preparing all this highly cited researcher lists. And finally, if there were a lot of papers that were retracted for reasons of research integrity, that's where we also exclude these people from the analysis. Same goes for authors with narrow or localized influence, but that's also almost the same thing as a group citation. So if we see that a paper is highly cited, but it's only cited by a specific university, let's say in a specific country, and nobody else is citing, almost nobody else is citing it at all, that's where we probably say that, okay, this person shouldn't be in the list. And finally, researchers with anomalous ratio of reviews to articles. Now, why this is important? In certain subject areas, review articles on average might receive 4 to 5 times more citations than the articles, than the original research. And that's a way of probably gaming the system and having more citations that you have in case all you publish is just review articles, and if you almost don't produce original research results. So yeah, we all of this seems like formal criteria, but we also have a large team of experts that analyze all these data points individually and make all the exclusions in case they're required to do. And finally, what we do is we start verifying our shortlist with the individual researchers. So all of these awardees from the final shortlist, they contacted by email and asked to verify what is their primary affiliation, and maybe they have a secondary affiliation. All the feedback that by default we recognize their affiliation right from the Web of Science papers, but academic mobility is super intensive in the world now. Today I'm a professor at NTU. Tomorrow I'm giving lectures at Harvard University, for example, and that's why we reach out to the researchers to check what they consider to be their primary and if they want secondary affiliation. And any feedback that we receive from them until October can still be captured before the launch of the official list. And we do launch the list normally in November every year. This time it happened, I think it was mid-November, but we can still accept any final corrections from the researchers until approximately 8th of December. So last year it was until 8th of December. Why exactly this matters and why exactly we close the window for any final edits after the 8th of December, I'll explain to you in a few more slides. So because this short answer is because this data is also used for some other important projects globally. So the public list is available at this link. So if you're more of link type and you prefer just copy pasting it or typing this in your web browser, please do. If not, feel free to scan the QR code with your mobile. So you can go to the official list of the highly cited researchers, which contains more than 7,000 researchers globally, but you can also select the Nanyang Technological University or region like Singapore or Australia, New Zealand or Malaysia, and you're going to find all the researchers from a specific region or specific organization. So this year we have 40, I would say, awards for Nanyang Technological University. But because some of the people that received their awards in several subject areas, I don't think we see these people here on the screenshot, but there are some people who received these awards in 2 or more subject areas. The real number of the highly cited researchers for NTU this year is 37. If you do have access to Web of Science, you can also browse the researchers, the highly cited researchers, and let me show how you can do this. So this is an example of highly cited researcher profile. Let me try to show you that in live Web of Science interface. So as some of you know, some of you might not, but we do have a researcher search tab right here, which we can open, and we can search by name, we can search by ID, or we can search by an organization. So if I type Nanyang Technological University, I'm going to get into the list of all the different researcher profiles that we have for the university, and we can click the quick filters and only select the highly cited researchers. Now, this list isn't...
Screen.
Can
I
you
cannot
see
see
my
the
screen?
screen. I cannot see the screen. I can only see you.
I'm so sorry. I was probably
sorry,
sharing just the... Thank
no,
you.
I can see the screen. So, sorry, the person who cannot see the screen, would you like to log out and log in again? Yeah. Okay, sorry for the
I just shared back.
You have shown it now. I can
Yes.
see it
perfect.
now.
Okay.
Perfect.
Dusit Niyatung. Yeah.
Exactly. Thank you very much.
Okay.
So what I was trying to convey is that this number in the Web of Science core collection is probably not going to be equal to the numbers you see on the portal, and that's not an error. First of all, what we're seeing here is the highly cited researcher profiles that were that have NTU affiliation and that were awarded the highly cited researcher award in any of the previous years. So you can click the profile and you can see in what number of the when they were awarded the highly cited status. Some of the people that we can look at, they have been receiving these awards for numerous years. They probably didn't receive it in 2024 and 2025, but they're still related to Nanyang Technological University, and that's why we see them on the list. Unfortunately, there's no way to filter the researchers in the interface for just a given year. And also, you might notice that all of the highly cited researchers that we see, they are claimed profiles in the Web of Science. So those are the ones that are ticked with this green mark. That means that the researchers verified their profiles themselves. You're gonna find some profiles on the portal, which I just shared with you, on the official highly cited researchers portal, that are not claimed here in the Web of Science. So probably those researchers might not get back to us about their true affiliation, or maybe they preferred not to really go into Web of Science and claim their profile. So they probably still sit with an algorithmically generated record, which we use for disambiguation of the authors. I hope this makes it all a little bit clear. With that, I'm jumping back into the presentation. I hope it also switched back to you with no glitches. Just some of the metrics that we see for the researchers. We have their number of documents, we have their H index. We don't show you their number of highly cited awards, highly cited documents, but you can always click this number of their documents and see them as a search results in the Web of Science and filter them by the highly cited documents, as long as you are a user from NTU that is also subscribed to the Essential Science Indicators as a database. Okay, let's move further. Let's talk about why this whole project is important. I like starting with Shanghai Jiao Tong University ranking, and I would specifically highlight this for NTU. You can see that NTU is currently in top 100 of these universities. And one of the metrics that is used for the ranking is specifically the number of highly cited researchers affiliated with this university. And this is exactly the reason why we are closing any edits to the researcher affiliations after some date in December. Because at some date in December, this data goes to Shanghai Jiao Tong, and that's how they incorporate this data into their next university ranking. What's interesting for NTU is when we're looking at all of the different metrics that are used for Shanghai Jiao Tong academic ranking of world university ranking, the value that you're having in the highly cited researchers is the highest of all that you have in this ranking, which I think is a great. Oh, sorry, actually, the number of publications is even higher. So my bad. But yeah, this 40.6 number is also very, very high. So yeah, it also contributes really well to your high position in academic ranking of world universities. Where else this is used? It's also used in the US News and World Report Best Global Universities ranking. It might not be as popular in Eastern Hemisphere, but it's basically the main ranking in the US and in Americas. So it doesn't use the highly cited researchers per se, but it uses the highly cited papers as a valid metrics for the calculation of the final university ranking. And what else this data is used? It's used a lot in the research policy. As certain governments in the world, they take a look at how, in which subject areas, for example, they have a huge number of highly cited researchers. It greatly influences the research policy of certain countries in the world, and specifically some of the countries, they allocate more research fundings and incentives to the fields where there's a lot of highly cited researchers, specifically in this country, because they know this is the strength of the country. At the institutional level, we encourage basically the universities to make their own PR statements about where they are right now with their number of highly cited researchers as soon as the new list gets published. I'm sorry if I didn't make this clear. Every year, basically, we publish this list consistently, sometime in November each year. So many institutions, they highlight this. And in a lot of cases, well, I think Prof. Khor might speak with much more experience than myself on this, but being an HCR can really strengthen your position in the university, strengthen your career, because that can lead to promotion, better funding, and a lot of other things. Speaking of funding, yes, funding bodies, I can say that they have in their policies, like, we don't fund non-highly cited researchers. But obviously, if you are a highly cited researcher, that might really increase your chances for getting funding on a specific competitive grant. And yeah, sometimes the researchers and institutions themselves, this is part of their collaboration strategy. Like, who should we collaborate with? Obviously, the rock stars, the highly cited researchers, they are the most wanted ones for potential collaboration. And finally, let's talk about some practical observations of what can we find in the highly cited researchers data set. So what I tried to do is I just downloaded the whole list of the highly cited papers and analyzed it in our tool called Insights Benchmarking and Analytics. First, I tried to break it down by journal impact factor quartile. While you're taking a look at this, I hope impressive picture. Let me explain what is a journal impact factor quartile, maybe for some of you. The journal impact factor is basically a metric of a journal's importance. But just the value of journal impact factor is normally not enough to say how good the journal really is. Because if a journal impact factor is equal to 3, that really depends on which subject area we're taking a look at. If we're talking about mathematics, this is absolutely top of the tops journal in mathematics, because the average citations in mathematics are not very high. But if we're taking a look at a subject area such as genetics, impact factor of 3 is probably not going to be enough to place it even in the top 20 in the world. So that's a completely different story in genetics. And in a subject area of, let's say, history, there has never, ever been a journal with such a high impact factor. So that's why, instead of talking about the values of the journal impact factor, we talk about the ranks that the journal takes in its subject area according to the journal impact factor. But the subject areas are also different in terms of their volume. Still, the same mathematics can contain more than 300 journals with journal impact factors in Web of Science. But let's say subject areas such as urban studies might only have 20 journals, and that's it. So instead of taking a look at specific rank, what we decided is we take every subject area, we break it down into we rank all the journals there from the most highly cited to the least highly cited, from most impactful to least impactful, and we just break each subject area into 4 equal parts. So the first quartile is the 25 most impactful journals in each subject area, and that, dear colleagues, is much more universal way of saying top tier journal than just taking a look at its impact factor, which is always subjective, but you should always put it in the context of a subject area. And the quartile value doesn't care about which subject area this journal is. It just says that if it's first quartile, it's absolute top of the tops. So the thing I'm trying to convey here is, if you publish your paper in 25% of the most impactful journals in the world according to their journal impact factor value, that's where you're likely to get a highly cited paper. If you publish them in lower impact journals, which are still good, they're still journals that produce quality research outputs, but because they have very limited readership audiences, probably NTU University's library might not be subscribed to these journals. Harvard might not be subscribed to that journal. Harvard University might not be subscribed to that journals. That's why you might publish a paper there, but it's highly unlikely to become a highly cited one. And vice versa. If you take a look at any of the journals in the Q1, the majority of as long as it's a subscription-based journal, I can guarantee to you that the majority of the top universities' libraries are subscribed to them. And if it's an open access journal, then it's in your subject area, you're pretty sure that you heard about this journal, you probably read it, and that's how it works. So again, the advice would be focus on publishing in higher impact journals in case you want to publish more highly cited papers. I'm going to give you a quick anecdote about an American physicist, Josiah Willard Gibbs, who he was living in 19th century, and he is known for working. I'm sorry, I'm not really good in thermodynamics, so it's not my subject area. So I do apologize if I confuse the terms here. But he has made such an important contribution to the field of thermodynamics that when Max Planck, in 30 or 40 years after Josiah Willard Gibbs, he uncovered his works, Max Planck was absolutely shocked at how much time Max Planck has lost to define exactly the same things that Josiah Willard Gibbs has defined 30 or 40 years before Max Planck. The problem here was that Josiah Willard Gibbs, being quite a humble person, he has published his main work of his life on the equilibrium of heterogeneous substances in a journal called Transactions of the Connecticut Academy of Sciences, of Arts and Sciences, which was, even by the ranks of Connecticut, it was quite an obscure journal that not a lot of people were reading at that day. I'm not sure if it exists by now, but in 19th century, it was quite an unknown one. So that's why really revolutionary ideas of Josiah Willard Gibbs have never haven't been noticed when he was alive, and only 30 or 40 years after they were published, they were uncovered, and people were thinking, why did we find this gem only now? Because it was so important for the science. So yeah, remember Josiah Willard Gibbs. So in case you have a really important research results to share, try to publish them in a higher impact journal, so that try to maximize the publicity that these research results are going to get. Okay, and the final one. I try to break down the highly cited papers published in the recent 10 years by the number of co-authors. So if you remember, we're talking about that the papers with more than 30 co-authors, which are mostly in these two buckets, they're not considered for evaluation. But you can see if the paper is authored by just one researcher, we don't have a lot of highly cited papers like that. Now, if the researchers are two, co-authors are 2, 3, etc., the number is slightly growing, probably picking somewhere around 4 authors, and then it starts falling down. And then I had to arrange them into buckets, but it's obvious that the number of this is falling down. Now, it would be probably interesting to compare the number of highly cited papers broken down by the number of co-authors versus the total number of papers in Web of Science, or this number of co-authors. But I just thought we might not need this precision for this conversation. So just bear with me that the thing I was trying to convey here is that if you are publishing a paper just as a single author, you probably don't have as high chances that it's going to become a highly cited one than if you collaborate with somebody to on that research. Okay, so there's this huge tail of the papers on the right hand side here with more than 20 researchers and 51 plus, and our paper from Large Hadron Collider with 5,290 co-authors. It also falls in there, and believe me, that's not the world record. World record is now 5,575 researchers, authors per paper, which is becoming a concern in the world. So if you're interested, there's this link to this research by our Institute of Scientific Information that was published a few years ago, that is called Global Research Report on Multi-Authorships and Research Analytics, that discusses the concern about the complex authorships when we have papers with more than hundreds, more than thousands of authors being published every year in reputable journals. This is not a bad thing per se in scientific sense. Those are still legitimate scientific publications. It's just that it raises concern on how should we evaluate them. Should we fractionalize these? Should we distribute the citations equally between each of the contributors to that paper, or do we need some other approaches here? If you're interested, here's a QR code for you. I'll probably wait for another few seconds so that you can scan it if you're interested and take a look at that report. And yeah, I would encourage you to take a look at this interesting reading. Okay. And we're getting close to the end of our conversation, so just without QR codes, just a few final links. These are going to be shared publicly with the slides after the presentation. So I'm providing you the link to the most recent list of the highly cited researchers, to the methodology in a text document if you want to revisit it. We have an interesting trends infographics, like you can take a look at how the number of highly cited researchers for Singapore, for example, have been changing in the recent years. We also have an archive of the past highly cited researchers list. So if you want, you can get this data and perform some data science analytics on that. That's going to be quite an interesting exercise. We also have one thing that is sometimes confused with the highly cited researchers project, and that is called a citation laureates. Very short, that is our attempt to predict Nobel Prize winners every year. And basically every year we name 2, 3, or 4 researchers that might win a Nobel Prize. We're not predicting them in a specific year, that's impossible. But if we mention that this researcher is probably of Nobel Prize quality, if I may, normally every year we basically, all the people that we've announced previously, like 5 or 6 names that are actually getting the Nobel Prize, we probably announced them last year, maybe 5 years ago, so that the prediction, the correct prediction year is quite high there. So please feel free to take a look at that. The definition of that is we're taking a look at all the papers at the Web of Science that have 1,000 citations or more. Finally, 2 links to the Web of Science Learning, in case you want to take a look at them, take a look at some learning videos, learning materials. Please feel free to take a look at that. But because I am a Nanyang Technological University customer success person, you can always reach out to me. We can schedule extra training sessions on whatever we were talking about now, or any questions that you might have which are outside of the scope of today's conversation. With that, I thank you so much for joining us today, and I think it's time to open up the Q&A session.
Okay, thank you, Pavel, for the very interesting and insightful talk. We will now open the floor for questions, and I believe we have one question in the chat. So let me read out to everyone. Okay, from Sung. Okay, hi Pavel and Michael, you may address. Okay, she said, the index is complicated. Quick clarifications and questions. Number 1, can you elaborate on the graph with the Singapore high citations? Number 2, outliners, China and USA, what does it mean? HCR authors given any monetary reward? Well, like example, few medal. And for analytics, is there intelligence of good and bad? Highly cited. Yeah. Okay. So think will our speakers like to address the question? Thank you. The question is in the chat.
Yeah, thank you very much. So I believe the question was about this graph with can
Yes,
elaborate on
yes.
graph where Singapore high citation, outliers China and USA. Yeah, why exactly they are outliers? I wouldn't say that they are outliers in the sense of the highly cited papers. It's just that on the horizontal scale, there is a total number of documents published affiliated with the country that are indexed in the Web of Science core collection. So we have over 3.5 million published by the US and almost 4.5 million published by China. That's just the total number of papers published per year, but the rate of the percentage of which of these papers end up being highly cited is in line with other top science producers in the world. It's just that Singapore is standing out in terms of this percentage. That's why I wanted to highlight that. Thank you very much for that question. The other two, are HCRs given any monetary reward? Frankly speaking, but by us, no, we don't give them. It's just a status. We don't. Nothing comes, at least from Clarivate. But yeah, because this can be monetized in terms of more funding, maybe career advancement by these researchers. We think that might be like indirect financial support for them. And finally. For field yeah, it's not the same thing as field medal or Nobel Prize, but yeah, it's basically our attempt to also announce the top of the tops in the world. Yeah, Prof. Khor, I'm sorry that you also wanted to contribute something.
Yes, thanks, Pavel, and thanks, Bunhee, for the good questions. So my comment on this very important plot is that it shows that Singapore's research is highly focused at the very tip of the research frontier. The NRF and MOE will be very happy to see this plot, A-star as well, because it shows that our papers are actually very well cited. And although in terms of volume, we are very, very low compared to China and US, but percentage of the top quality work is high. And we are definitely on the right track. This tells the government and the funding agencies that we are definitely on the right track. And we will be, of course, that with the release of RIE 2030, Singapore government, NRF, is putting even more investment into research, innovation, and enterprise because of the very positive evidence that we are seeing. And this is one of them. We should also note that in terms of absolute number, we are nowhere near the big boys. We are very, very far behind US and China in absolute number. So again, size is a factor, and this is our, in a way, natural disadvantage. But having such a high percentage of top papers or highly cited paper definitely will help us gain greater influence in the world of research. So this is a very good evidence for Singapore. Yeah, I would also want to add to the further additional questions that being a highly cited researcher doesn't really have such a great impact in grants, because grants is a totally different game. Grant application is about the future. Citation is about the past. So although a good record or high citation gives the grant review committee confidence in the researcher, but it is not a green lane or a shoe-in for the research proposal, because it is all about the idea in the proposal. It is about the future, and this is important. And yeah, basically that's all I want to comment on the question. Thank you.
Oime, can I say something? Thank you, Pavel and Michael, for your for your reply to my questions. I'll follow up slightly later on. I presume those slides will be available to us.
Yes.
We'll so just something. Thank you very much. It was really, really insightful. Congratulations and all the best.
Thank you very much. I don't think we answered the question about the good and bad highly cited. I don't think there exists, to me personally, I don't think there exists such thing as bad highly cited, because all the people that manipulate the citations, that are involved in any terms of scientific misconduct, we exclude them from the list. So I think there might be theoretically people who still do that, but we just didn't find bulletproof evidence that they do. So there might be there. But we're doing our best, and I'm pretty sure we're the best team in the world that does this in terms of cleansing the final data set. That we're doing our best to exclude the people who are doing that from the data set. So yeah, I hope this explains. If you find any bad highly cited that still has this status, please do let us know.
No. My question was actually I typed that question before you listed down the 5,000 plus authors. Yeah. So
okay.
yeah. So that explains why that question popped up. Yeah.
Okay.
No, but
thank you very
it's
much.
okay. Thank you.
Okay.
We
There's one
also,
more question.
Yeah, there's one more question in the chat.
I think that's if I may take this question, how can we know which field the paper related to? If the paper is related to several disciplines, let's say physics, neuroscience, and medicine, is categorized into, will it fall into the cross field? If not, how the classification is done. Thank you very much for the question. Allow me to, if we have 2 more minutes, I'll jump into the live interface in the Web of Science and I'll try to show you. So let's pick a record from Nanyang Technological. Oops, once again, I'm going into the, what I was trying to do is, let's try to find some records on protein, and I'm going to find one journal that is indexed in more than one subject areas. That would automatically mean that this paper has fallen into more than one of the subject areas, and I'm not super, yeah, there we go. So we have this paper, Inhibitors of Protein-Protein Interactions as Potential Drugs, which is indexed in 2 subject areas. So let's try to answer the question of how exactly, where exactly this paper is falling into. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to isolate only this paper here. As you can see, it's indexed in 2 subject categories: medicinal chemistry and computer science interdisciplinary applications. That's the Web of Science subject category. So we would. I'm sorry if I'm overcomplicating things here, but it's important to understand that there's a Web of Science schema, and there's the Essential Science Indicator schema. Web of Science is about 250, more than 250 rather narrow subject areas. And Essential Science Indicators is a set of 21, 22 wide subject areas. And if in the Web of Science categories, a single paper can be attributed to 2 or more categories, in Essential Science Indicators, it's always unique. So a paper can only be linked to one of them. So the way I would check which subject area in Essential Science Indicators it's fallen into, I would just go to this paper, export it into Insights. And NTU does have access to Insights. I'm going to call this dataset one paper dataset. We export it. And then when we open it in Insights, you should have it here. Yeah. I'm sorry, it kicked me for being idle for quite a while. But if we go to research areas report, insights, it's also available in NTU as a tool. So if I switch from insights dataset to this one paper dataset that we just generated, I can view it in any of the subject areas, and I'm gonna switch to all years. Yeah, there we go. I can view it in any of the subject area classification schemas that virtually exist in the world, and dozens of them here. So if we switch to essential science indicators, that's where we find that this paper is actually indexed in pharmacology and toxicology. So when we're talking about individual essential science indicators documents, then we can, this is the way we're doing them. We can also switch to the researcher's report in Insights, select yourself as a researcher and select the essential science indicators as a valid schema that you want to take a look at, and you're going to see which subject areas your particular research is related to. So if you want ever a basic or maybe more advanced workshop on insights or on this subject area classifications, we're always happy to do that for NTU. Can high citation alone measure research quality? What other things can look for? What does it miss, if any? Thanks for the talk. Yeah, that's a very good question. Thank you very much, Santing. So first of all, what else can measure research quality? I would say what citations measure, it's not really the quality of the research, but rather its impact. Can a research be of high quality but low impact? Absolutely. Can the research be of low quality but high impact? Well, in exceptional cases, yes, but as we normally say, exceptions, they just confirm that there's a rule existing there. Yeah, which other metrics can be used? Recently, we've also added very exciting metrics like citations from patents, which is an evaluation of technological impact, and citations from policy documents, which in a way can be treated like a societal impact. I'm pretty sure Prof. Khor can speak a lot about other applications of what can be done here. I'll probably just shut up here and maybe Prof. Khor, you want to say your part.
No, thanks very much, Pavel. These are all very excellent points. I just want to add that the selection of topic is important, and being aware of rising trend is very important, and that's why I like the research front from Clarivate Analytics. And then I think Clarivate Analytics is doing a lot of very important analysis that help the researchers. So as you know, there is a rise in AI now, and if you cross AI with other scientific disciplines like physics, chemistry, material science, we are seeing evidence of impact. So that's why Singapore is investing heavily in what is called AI for X. And X can be anything from medicine to physics, chemistry, material science, engineering, and biology, and so on. So I think being aware of the potential of certain fields to rise is crucial. But as I said, and this is something Pavel alluded to just now, there is a high chance that highly cited research papers are also good research. But they may not be the best, but there is a high chance that these are good. There could be other diamonds that are undiscovered, like Josiah Willard Gibbs, but these are rare. But so it is to be on the safe side. It is good to be highly cited. But also the impact on other fields is crucial as well. And of course the struggle today, as Pavel would also know, is the proliferation of papers, and this increases the noise in citation counts and that sort of other analysis, and which is something that we need to be very much aware of. Yeah, that's all I have to add to what Pavel has shared. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. Khor. Pavel, I think we have some more questions in the
Yeah.
chat.
Let me just make sure I answer the question about can high citation alone measure research quality? Well, just to add on that, there are also altmetrics out there, which I'm not expressing the official view of Clarivate, but I think, to me, I tried to analyze some of the top altmetric champion papers. A lot of them maybe were measured by like the hype that they get gathered on the internet, on the social networks. With I saw that some of them were not really highly impactful papers, but altmetrics might also be important when you take a look at them. What else? There might be other metrics out there that can help us assess the quality of the research. But yeah, because there's a second question there that please elaborate on citations and patents that you just mentioned, where we can see this data. The good news is that you can see it right on Web of Science, or you can also see it on Insight. So let me very quickly show you something in the Web of Science that you can see. I'll just show you once again the top papers published by NTU. So this is how we find all the Nanyang Technological University affiliated papers published in the recent years, and we sort them by citation, highest to lowest. So if we go, let's say, to this, for example, document, we see that it was cited 9,630 times just in the Web of Science core collection. But because there is much higher number of databases on the Web of Science, we can expand this section and see that, okay, this document was also cited 15 times in Derwent Innovations Index. And Derwent Innovations Index is basically a patent database that's also indexed on Web of Science platform and available at NTU and some other universities globally. So even if you don't have a subscription to Derwent Innovations Index, you're still going to see this number. But if you do, you can click this number and you're getting into Derwent Innovations Index, where you see all the patents that are that are citing, all the inventions that were citing this research, either in the patent applications or in the granted patents. So this is how you can do. And also, if we go back to the, so you can, first of all, you can see this metric at individual documents. You can also see this metric at the level of the researcher profiles. So for Dusit Nieto, for example, they have 519 citations from patents. You can also do certain things with the APIs, like you can export the data both from Web of Science and from this patent database, and analyze the context of these citations, like who are the owners of the IP that cites you, who are the top researchers in NTU by their technological impact. So there's a lot of what you can do with this data. I hope I answered your question. I'm sorry, I can get really excited about this topic because it was one of my most exciting topics in the recent year.
Okay, thank you, Pavel and Prof. Khor. I'm afraid due to the lack of time, we may not be able to address all the questions. It is now 11:30 a.m. So thanks everyone for coming to today's webinar. We'll just need one more thing from everyone. I think we would need your help to give us the feedback on how we've done for today. My colleague has submitted the feedback form in the link. So we also have it as a QR on the slide. So if you could see my slide now, you can also use your phone to scan the QR. Oops, sorry. Use your phone to scan the QR to get to let us know how is today's webinar, so that we can organize other webinars for everyone in the following year. Oh, sorry, not following year, in the future. So okay, maybe I'll just leave the slide here for a few minutes. Okay, other than that, okay, let me stop sharing. I think, let me see any. Oh, okay. Pavel has also put in his email address in the chat. So if you have further questions, you can send to Pavel, or you can also direct your questions to me. I will be sending everybody the web link to the video recording and the slides once they are ready. So thank you once again to our speakers, Pavel and Prof. Khor, for their very interesting insights. I certainly learned a lot today. Okay, I think I think my colleagues from the library has also learned quite a bit. So I'll also like to alert everyone that at the library, we have put up the a section for Clarivate's highly cited researchers award inside the NTU academic profiles for faculty. So everyone can now search for the profiles, and if the researcher has an award, the HCR award, it will be indicated under the award section. Okay, so that's all that we have for you today. Thank you everyone for your time, and we hope to see you again soon at the next seminar. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Goodbye,
Bye.
everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
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 Bye.